hell is going on? Uh-oh. I don't have, I don't have chat. Um, yeah, whatever. Um, I think it's no, it's just hold on. There we go. No, it's this has nothing to do with Skype. It has everything to do with like hold on. There we go. Crisis averted. Hello, we're actually live and only a half hour late tonight. Thanks, internet. We're becoming more and more like a woman. We'll be ready in 5 minutes. Half hour later. Um, but yeah, we are live. Greg has come up with some pretty awesome-ish news topics for us to discuss. Sadly, no. Sadly, no RAV4 news this week. Thank God. However, will I live on? No, no. I mean, assuming the motor in my car is fucked. Oh, whoops. That's like 2 minutes in. First F-bomb. Sorry, YouTube. Considering that. So about a month and a half ago, I got. Thank you, Doug, for Greg to buy bigger turbos so he can get to the stream on time. Yes, he did. Wait, you get. How is Greg on mute? Yep. Jesus. Why does this fucking... All right. Greg should be unmuted, sadly.
Well, thanks. Appreciate
And now I
that.
can't hear him. This is fucking brilliant.
Oh, great. Well, on my end, it looks like it's working a little bit.
All right, I think we have it fixed. All right, so we're off to a freaking brilliant start. I'm not in any way frustrated on the verge of putting my head through drywall or... I'm not even, like, I'm at the point where I might even not even look for a stud and pray that I actually hit one. Yeah, it's been not a great 7 days, if you're wondering. Back to Greg's question on what happened to Chad's car. And here's the story. About a month and a half ago, I came across a check engine light. And I ran the codes, and it was cam position sensor, cam circuit on circuit A and circuit B, and misfire detected. Okay. To which, between myself, Jeff at Blue Sky, who knows the Coyote platform very well, and some other YouTube internet sleuthing, I came to what I thought was the very justified conclusion that I either had a bad cam position sensor or one or more of my cam phasers or cam phaser actuators, which is what controls the variable valve timing in the Coyote, if you don't speak Ford, was bad. And I was like, okay, this sucks, but it's not the end of the world. That fix can range anywhere from like $700 to like $3,000. So I was like, all right, let me just park the car, run it occasionally just to keep the fluids moving through it, all that sort of fun stuff. And, when I have enough, it's not when I have enough, when I'm comfortable enough spending the 3,000, I'll take it down to the shop and have them address it. So I do exactly that. I sell some parts. I have some extra cash, and I was like, this sucks that I'm not buying Go Fast parts with it, but at least now I can get my car running, so I can at least enjoy it, because it's been a while since I've actually driven it as it should be driven. Drop it off Thursday night. They look at it Friday. I'm expecting end of the day for them, or midway through the day for them to call me, and it's like, yep, cam phasers are bad. It's going to cost X to fix it. And I was even expecting, while we're in there, we should probably do the chains, the timing chains and stuff, just as a precaution, which is the expensive bit on these, I've been told. So I'm waiting. Noon goes by, 2 goes by, 4 o'clock goes by. At about 5 o'clock, about an hour before they close. Sean, I'll address that in a second. I get a call from them. And the guy, casual as can be, complete deadpan, with not an ounce, I don't even know if this guy knows what empathy means. Goes, hi, so based on the codes you had and some of the other inspection procedures we go through, we looked at your car, and we noticed it had about 2 quarts of oil in it, which is maybe a quarter of what it should have. I was like, okay. At which point I'm like, you guys did the oil change about 4 months ago. And maybe 700 miles ago. Why is it so low on oil? And he goes, again, totally calm, not like, hey, I'm sorry to be bad news. Not like, he goes, well, your car's burning oil, based on, again, what we've done to look into it. That's due to ring failure, and you need a new motor. Again, completely motor's toast. You'd think it's and he'd have I'm sorry, man, blah, 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 blah. Nope, nothing. All right, whatever. And I'm like, once again, this was in for an oil change recently. So you're telling me in the very minimal amount of mileage, my rings failed? He's like, well, yeah, it's not uncommon. And I'll go, okay, is this covered? He goes, well, your car's out of warranty. I'm going to stab someone. And I'm like, okay, what's the cost to repair it? He goes, well, it's anywhere between $13,000 and $15,000. I think the exact quote was somewhere in the neighborhood of $13,700. And he said it I'm like, sure, put it on the Amex. Let's go. I am burning. I have money to burn, apparently, much like I have oil to burn. I'm like, are you kidding? And I'm like, when rings fail. At minimum, that cylinder has to come out, the sleeve has to come out, and a new piston with new rings has to go in. But because this is not an uncommon issue with the Coyote platform, it's one of those things where you have to completely rebuild the motor. So yeah, but it's much more cost effective for a Ford dealer to just replace it. And here's the newsflash: I don't have a spare $14,000 lying around to do that. I just don't. With everything going on, the rest of the life, just not there. So, I was like, so my options are this. It's just, if I could just have a car that doesn't throw fucking curveballs at me every what seems to be springtime at this point, between 2 Aprils ago, the silver car catching fire, and now my motor's cooked on this car. I'm here with all this stuff. So I have 2 options. Number 1, I should be getting a call from the service director tomorrow at some point, kind of go over my options as far as reaching out to Ford. Because again, there's almost guaranteed to be a service bulletin on these ring issues, because it's not something that's isolated to me. So,
This smells like a class action lawsuit. I got to be honest. Because if
um,
they willingly did this in their motors and they knew it was a potential existing condition or a known failure point, they could be doing a whole mess of motors just like the Rangers and giving people a bunch of free motors.
yes, but this also comes down to uh, so I don't want to. Doug goes $100 for an LS swap. That's gonna cost me even more money, Doug. Um, it comes down so like there's a lot of stuff like and we've talked about it on stream about OEMs doing the is it cheaper to issue a recall and do tens of thousands of cars borderline, or is it just cheaper to issue a service bulletin and if someone makes a big enough stink we just take care of it?
Right.
you know I hate to break it to everyone, but recalls are not issued the second there's a known catastrophic issue or really bad issue or something that
Yeah.
causes a functionality. And I'll give you another example of this. On my 2015, I had issues with the backup camera. And it wasn't until 2024 when they issued the recall for the backup camera. Fast forward, 2018s and newer got a recall for the same exact issue like 5 years ago. It's the same fucking thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same. So, my first option is to contact the Ford. I've been told by someone who used to be a Ford service director at a dealership, I think in Mendham, to reach out to Ford. But before you do, talk to the service director and be like, as a heads up, I wanted to talk to you, let you know this is the route I'm taking, so they're not blindsided by it, and then get the thought that I'm going over their head, right? Like just trying to be a nice guy, and like obviously more flies with honey kind of approach. The other option is we are moving, we are selling this house, we will have a pretty sizable little nut to pull from once we sell the house.
Right.
At which point, car ain't going to fucking Ford. It's going to Blue Sky.
Right.
And we put the new motor in, and basically while it's out, anything that's difficult to do with the motor in the car, we're going to do it with the motor out of the car.
Exactly.
So on the one hand, yeah, it sucks because money out of my pocket. On the other hand, it would actually be progress for the car. Like,
True. Right. I guess the silver lining is the car isn't like a total loss here. Like it's not like this
No,
is going to be like the death of the Mustang for sure.
it will come back. At whatever point the motor, however route we end up going, the motor route, there will be a video launched kind of, hi, my name's Chad, and this is my 2019 Ford Mustang GT. It's not new. I've had it for over a year, but the motor's effed. That's why you haven't seen it. And then like go to like either the Deadpool thing or I forget what it was. It's like record scratch, pause, slow zoom in on me. I bet you're wondering how we got to this point. I bet you're wondering like, hey, didn't you have a silver Mustang making a crap ton of horsepower? It's like, yes, but to tell that tale, we have to go back to the dewy slopes of March 2024 and kind of go through, because I have a stockpile of footage. I have dyno footage. I have Elliot Alvis coming out to look at the burnt car footage. I have a really funny clip of him getting out of a C4 Corvette that was on the Blue Sky lot that has been sitting there for, I'm not kidding, over a year and a half. Like I have all this footage that I want to put out, but I don't like starting a series, because if I had started that series, I would have had to continue that. And we're not like a DDE or someone else where I could just go, okay, well, my car's effed. Let's go to Greg's car. You're not modding it. Well, we all hate you. You
Or
know,
let's hop in that Huracan over there for no reason at all.
or buy a new SLS Black.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, so like that was the whole reason. Like when we did the first build of the Mustang, if you noticed, that was episodic and it came out weekly until we had kind of the final stuff with it. I sat on footage for months just so I could do that, so it had quote unquote momentum. So to kind of wrap that up, and then I want to just and then I'll touch base with chat real quick. There is a plan going forward for the Mustang. It might be a couple weeks from now. It might be 4 or 5 months from now. I don't know, but the car's not dead. While this all sucks, and I'm really on edge about the whole stupid thing, it's not the end of the world. Sean, back to your comment. Greg sounds like he has a sock in his mouth. Well, the fun fact is that apparently Greg's computer is only allowing one input, and for him to both hear me speak and me hear him speak, and for all of you to hear him speak, he has to go through the AirPods. So, yeah, I mean, he could legitimately take the microphone out of frame at this point if he wanted to. It is kind of what it is. Like I jokingly said, my summer project is to go out there with some Wi-Fi extenders, build Greg a she shed with HVAC, and just have that be his permanent home of streaming.
I've looked into like man cave sheds actually for the backyard.
Do it.
They're pretty affordable. They're not like, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. You can get a pretty decent one for like $5-10 grand.
And they make those little
that's not an insignificant amount of money, but like, you know, it's not bad.
It's more. I mean, that's like a third of the price of putting in a small addition on your house.
Yes, which we're doing anyway, and it's going to be a lot more than that.
If you don't have a permanent office with a studio in there, I'm driving to your house.
Studio.
Just fair warning. I'm not telling you when. I'm not telling you anything. But at some point, don't be surprised if I just go up to your house and be like, "Hi," kick to the shins with my steel toe boots.
I mean, there will be an office, but the problem is it's right next to the kids' rooms. That's the problem. So like, because the whole reason for us putting on an addition is so that Kate's mom can move in, and then, you know, we live in a Center Hall Colonial in New Jersey, which has 4 bedrooms upstairs, which is, again, you know, it's a nice house. Like, I'm not going to say it's not. It's a really beautiful house. Worked hard to get here, blah, blah, blah. The thing is, like, all of the rooms in this house, other than the master bedroom, they're all, like, right next to each other. So one of those rooms becomes the office. The other 2 rooms are occupied by kids, and they go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, at latest. So if we're streaming, like, I'm just going to be, like, whooping and hollering in the room next to them. That's not really conducive for children sleeping. So
I feel like before you break ground on this is something that could possibly, potentially, maybe get changed in the plans.
No, unfortunately.
Get your architect on the phone. Anywho.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Steve goes, I'm getting an estimate of $1,800 for my car for repairs. Again, Steve, we talked about it in the little private chat. I'm not one to sit here and say what is or isn't a lot of money to anyone in their particular situations. I do not have the right to say that. I don't think anyone has the right to say that. That sucks. Like, it always sucks when there's like a large amount of money coming out of your pocket to fix your effing car. Andrew goes, get a second opinion from another automatic mechanic or garage. I thought about that, but eventually at the end of the day, the car is going to go to Blue Sky and they're going to take a look at it. So if Ford's telling me it's effed and I can get Goodwill or something like that for them to replace it, that's problem solved.
True.
If not, then again, it's going to Blue Sky and Jeff will sit here and tell me exactly what needs to happen. You know, whether or not I just use a new short block, or whether or not, okay, a new short block is going to be $7,000. You could send it over to XYZ. There's a pretty good coyote builder in PA. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. but they're on the same level as like Fast Forward Race Engines, which is down in Florida, and they're building some truly bat crap insane coyotes. So it might be more cost effective for them to say, hey, we're just going to take this out. We're going to put new stuff in and go from there. At which point, again, I have more financial flexibility because then I could sit here and say, okay, that's fantastic. A BC Racing 5.3 liter stroker is X amount of money. New Ford OEM rotating assembly is going to cost this. So if it's like a difference of like $1,000 or so, like whatever, it's like, pfft, yeah, I'm going for more cubes. So like, there's a whole short version of the story is that I don't know what's going to happen. I'm hoping for the goodwill because then like the money budgeted from the house sale that can go to the car and other stuff as opposed to just returning her to the way she was.
Right.
Doug wants me to LS swap it, which is hilarious coming from Doug, but again, here's a short version of the story. When I asked Jeff how much would it cost to put X engine into Y car, the answer is always $25,000, just because of how much is involved. Doug goes, TSBs normally are just to make it easier to diag. Doesn't mean there's an obligation to make it right. I understand that, Doug. I totally get that. What I mean is more of there's an acknowledgement at a certain level that there is an issue, a common issue, an issue across multiple vehicles. That's it. I'm not saying otherwise it would just become, if it was coming from them, it would just become a recall. So it's more of something to sit here and say like, hey, you know this happens with these cars. May not happen to every car, but you know it happens. Like, come on. Steve goes, well, maybe find a wrecked Mustang with a healthy engine. That's also another possibility to save a couple bucks, like, is to find a Gen 3. But here's the thing about going with a junkyard, quote unquote, Gen 3 Coyote. In 6 months, a ring could fail in that motor. Like now I'm hypersensitive to that fact, right?
Yeah.
So is there a strong chance it won't? Yes. Is there a small chance that it will? Also yes. And frankly, with the car history that I've had through no fucking fault of my own in the last 13, 14 months, I can't, because that will be like, I can't, I just don't want to go through that again, if that makes any sense. Andrew goes, I think my cousin is a Ford mechanic. He probably works on Mustangs. I'm guessing Ford Mustang, probably yes. I 100% appreciate the sentiment and everything. I don't want to sound ungrateful because I am. If I'm having work done to my car and they say, yes, we'll do it, it's going to Blue Sky. I have an immense amount of trust in their ability to do high-end work, to do quality work, and their pricing is pretty reasonable. Jeff already told me that if he was to do the exact thing Ford was going to do for me, he'd probably be able to do it for almost like if I got a junkyard engine, he'd be able to do it for half. If I got a new short block, he'd be able to do it for a significant amount less. So this is not a knock, and I appreciate it. And whenever I know you're trying to help, I appreciate it to no end. This is a me thing, and these are the guys I trust. I know they install more Coyotes per year in different types of vehicles than pretty much anyone else within a probably 15-hour drive from me. So it's just, that's a me. That's who I trust. I know they did work on my old car. I've seen the work they churn out. And again, this isn't a knock. It's just all the stars align for this to be the best possible option should it get there. Doug goes, yes, if you want goodwill, then it's best suited to have friends at the dealer. And then he goes, it's not like it's on fire. No. But in some ways, this was worse. This hit me harder than the fire. I don't know if it was because of the way the fire happened and the fact that I was able to get it away from my house and that I saved the house. You know, I was losing the car regardless, but I saved the house. I saved everything here, like all that stuff. I don't know. But when I heard the news for this, like, I was speechless. I was like, cause like, you've got to be kidding me. You know, the basket case M3, the caster issue with the C30, the fire with the silver car. Now this, like the cumulative effect of all of those fucking disappointments. And I think if Sean, you're still here, Sean will tell y'all. Like I know a bunch of you were at Carlisle this weekend. And he's like, hey, swing on up this weekend. And I go, I'll be 100% honest with you. I want absolutely nothing to do with cars right now. I don't want to look at custom cars. I don't want to talk custom cars. And, like, I just don't want to deal with it.
Understandable. Very understandable.
So, that really sucks to hear, bud. Thanks. I appreciate it. Steve, Andrew, same words. Thank you. Steve goes, I might be looking for a Volvo. My Honda's not Honda reliable. I found a decent IS250 up by me that I showed to a friend of mine, but if he doesn't want it, might not be a bad thing.
Hey, talk about reliability. I mean, IS250 is pretty much to the top of the list there.
You know, Doug goes, dynamite the heck out of the walls. I mean, yeah, for you, Greg, and that. No, I mean, we found that a shed's probably the best idea. We're gonna put a bunch of like super cool streamer soundproofing on it, so it looks all fancy. We're gonna get some. Yeah. I'm probably gonna find out where his router is. Dig a big trench in his backyard and run conduit into it, so he has Ethernet.
I'm okay with that.
You know, and that's it. Doug goes, is it like Volvo where better rings to fix the problem, or is it like an ongoing continuous headache? It's a ring specific issue. So I forget the exact year, but it was, I think 18s and 19s are more prone to it than the 19s and newer. They effectively used better, I don't know if it's material in the rings. They had a better QC in how they gapped the rings and all that other sort of stuff. But they addressed it. They addressed it in later cars to where it's, I don't want to say a non-issue. So like if I was to sit here and find a junkyard Gen 3 out of say a 2020, that's a possibility because it's been updated and everything. But like I said, like I even went, it's funny. So when I heard it, I was like, new short block. Let me do some Googleizing and see what short blocks are going for. Like, okay, Gen 3, about $7,000, not bad. And then, of course, where my head immediately went, Predator short blocks for sale from Ford.
Yeah.
So, but the bad downside to that is that I quickly was like, wait a minute. They're going to be low compression because boost. And I was like, And I looked, and it's actually, you can say, I want 10 to 1, 11 to 1, or 12 to 1 compression in this. I'm like, fantastic. But, and it's only like $11,000 for a Predator short block. Apparently they use slightly different head studs, which makes sense because it's a 760 horsepower capable motor. And there's some debate online what head studs to use and how to go about getting, like, you know, whether you how to address that in the heads themselves. Because basically, I would take a Predator short block at 12-to-1 compression and put my Gen 3 heads on it, so that Gen 3 heads would need some modification. And I'm not 100% exactly. Steve goes, Chad's going to start an OnlyFans to get his Mustang back on the road. I mean, it could be sort of like the inverse of most OnlyFans. It's like, if I hit X amount of subscriptions or donations, I'll put clothes back on. Because I believe, Steve, you were none too keen about when in the chat we were having when you said it was $1,800, and I go, just for perspective, I would tap down naked down your main street of your town if my repairs were only $1,800, and you weren't a fan of that. Sean goes aluminum 351. Steve's ring usually fails after Mexican food. But Andrew Nice. Sean Ford goes, just pull a Godzilla from a 7.3 from a delivery van. Again, it's plug and play. If I go plug and play, it's going to be more cost effective.
Yeah.
And so in theory, if I was to just get a standard short block, send it up, like it goes the route. In theory, send it up the Blue Sky. They do the work. And I have to, like, if I have to actually pay for it, I don't get goodwill from Ford. I get all that. I can then in turn use some of that $13,000 or we'll call it $14,000. Oh, there's also another funny thing about that I'll get to in a second. To which I can have the long tubes put back in, the shifter relocation put back in, a better intake manifold put back in, and all that for the same amount of money. And now we're knocking on the door of 500 wheel. Which, yay. Also, as a fun fact, I went to the dealer a couple days ago on Monday, and he was showing me the complete invoice of all the shit that needs to be done and how the price breaks down, all this other sort of stuff. And he goes, here's what it costs for the engine. Now, I just want to say the good news here, the good news is that you're going to get a $500 core refund because I'm sending my old motor back. I don't.
Yay.
Oh, so it's just. So it's just a little over $13,000. Well, I can bend over and enjoy this now.
That's one of those scenarios where you just like go to Ford and be like, you keep it. It feels like you need it more than I do. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Sean goes, but I am sorry that it happened to you, bro. Hope you find a decent solution. Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And look, let me put it this way. I'm not shitting all over your ideas. I think we had this same conversation last night about something completely unrelated. The point I'm making is, like, yeah, this would be a cool opportunity for an engine swap. Engine swaps are a lot, especially the newer the car.
Yeah.
Just because of how much networking is. Like, literally, you needed an IT guy to figure it all out. And I don't have to tell you guys, I'm a bit of a coyote file. So, and my dream for that car all along was to get some sort of stroker kit in it and up the displacement, ideally to like 5.4 or bigger. I think they can go up to like 5. You said 351 earlier. I think the Coyote has room to go to 351 cubic inches, but I don't know how streetable that is. But that was always the goal. So if at this point I have a budget, I have a little bit extra, can I get as close to that as I want utilizing what I have to do, essentially?
Right.
Doug goes, would the 7.3 have the ring issue? Because there's an argument to be made about this cost-effective notion at this point. To my knowledge, they don't. They're also ridiculously under-stressed, comparatively speaking. And like I said, the ring issue has been addressed and pretty much fixed. And the only reason I say pretty much is that quality control when it comes to parts is not 100%. In anything, whether it be cars, cell phones, dildos, doesn't matter. Not 100% of the parts that leave the factory are perfect or as intended based off of their design. So, if I were to get, say, a new short block from Ford, a brand new one, that would have the ring update in it. We've even looked into potentially getting a Gen 4 block, short block, because they're pretty much the same. And there are no ring issues with that. Sean is making dinner. Andrew goes, "You're just dealing with a lot with your car right now." Pff, yeah. I totally honest. I get you. Get it sorted out and hope everything works out for you. Go smoothly. Thanks. I appreciate it, man. And Sean or Doug goes, "Yeah, but I found a dildo in the creek when I was a kid, and it still would have worked. Some engines are better than others." Oh, dude, I totally agree. I'm. Let me put it to you this way: just ask General Motors what's going wrong with their V8s lately, right? There are again. Let me put it to you this way: if I was concerned that a new short block or a refurbished short block, basically a cast block casting with some miles on it, but new sleeves, new rotating assembly, etc. If I wasn't confident that they had addressed the issue with the ring failure, we'd be having a completely different conversation. At that point, I would be talking about getting a Gen 2 short block and putting higher compression pistons in it. That's just basically where we would be. But again, this comes from me doing some digging on the internet, me talking to Jeff at Blue Sky, who it's impossible for me to accurately describe his experience with these engines. They have been putting Gen 3 crate engines in Fox bodies and old Mercury, old Mustangs, new Mustangs. They've been doing it for a while, and he knows after a certain point that the issue was addressed. Probably, Steve. You just have to make sure you used. I think you're going to want to use like 50 weight on it first. But yeah. But yeah, so that's where we're at. The car's not dead. Sucks. I just, but it's not dead. So
That's right.
and let me put it this way, guys: if I agree or disagree or have a different thought, or I'm just doing a shitty job of explaining something and you're not quite understanding it or something like that, know that I appreciate the input. I'm not trying to crap all over your advice. I just want you to know that you're appreciated and all of that. On that note, Greg's going to prep you up for some news topics. He's going to shoot. Hold on. So I'm gonna go use the restroom. Greg,
Then I am, but I'll prep the stuff.
but Greg is going to regale you with news about new small Toyota trucks.
Yes.
So I hope you all enjoy that. Hope you give him his undivided attention. There will be a quiz tomorrow on this topic that we will be grading, and it will be part of your yearly. I'm just going to kill this joke while it continues to not be funny. Ladies and gentlemen, Gregson Mate.
Yes. Hello. So, really quick on Chad's car, like it's a huge bummer. We'll we'll table that until the next time we can talk about it. But yeah, you guys, your input like invaluable. Appreciate everything you guys do for us in the sense of just like being there and chatting with us. Like that's awesome. So appreciate that. Let's totally move on from that. So we can kind of just focus on other stuff to rant and rave about because that's why we're all here to talk other car stuff so that you guys can chat in the comments and have a lovely time. So there's a couple of different topics we're going to hit on tonight, and it's in the description of this video. First and foremost is what Chad mentioned is tiny trucks coming to the U.S. By tiny, we don't mean key trucks. So there was some legislation passed, I believe, in Texas that authorizes them to be on the road down there. Excuse me. Which is cool, and that's good. And it flies in the face of a lot of different states trying to say that those aren't real cars right now, which is dumb. But anyway, different. Talking about like small trucks for the U.S. You're talking your Ford Maverick, your Hyundai Santa Cruz, like those size, like small pickups or unibody kind of pickups. Toyota might get into this market. Now I'll go into that in just a few minutes. Two other things, actually three other things we wanted to hit on, but I'll mention the other two. The third we might get to, or we might save it for next week. The Dodge Charger sedan, the 4-door is now out, and it has 670 horsepower, the electric version. And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit in the who cares category, because obviously. And then the last thing, though we might make this the second thing, because this is very interesting in the sense of the Lotus Emira, the new sports car from Lotus. That's not the super electric one. That's the Evija, I believe it's called. I think it's pronounced Evija. That's the 2,000 horsepower like hypercar EV that they're working on, whatever. The Emira is the one that replaced the Evora that was really kind of getting Lotus into this really nice sports car, sphere. And Lotus has always been great with sports cars, but like the Evora sort of brought it into like more modernized, an actual working car that wasn't just a go-kart. It had like amenities. It still had the Lotus ethos, even though it was heavier. It had great handling. Everyone that drove one kind of sort of loved it, but really wasn't the craziest reliable thing. The Emira sort of builds on that and makes this, like a sports car with even more of a GT prowess. It has the same supercharged V6, and it's Toyota sourced. So the engine has never been the issue with these cars. It's everything around it that always is the issue. Lotus actually might be considering putting a V8 into it. And the reason for that is really interesting. And we'll get into that. But first, let's save that. We'll do that one second. The first one, we'll talk about, this comes from the Japan Times, which is like very reputable source, obviously. Toyota considers making tiny trucks for the US market as demand booms. And basically what this article is saying is they're offering a compact pickup in the US. They have before. There have been compact Toyota pickups in the US before. Same thing with Mazda. Back in the 80s, there was basically a micro pickup sort of phenomenon that carried over into the 90s. Chad, I don't know if you were listening, but we're talking about like the micro pickup craze of like the 80s and 90s, and how Toyota and Mazda and other companies had small trucks, like, really small trucks in the US market before. But now with like the success of the Hyundai Santa Cruz, the Ford Maverick, there's a lot of interest in that area now because pickup trucks are just really gigantic these days. Like they've grown exponentially. If you look at what a Ford F-150 was in like 1995 and a Ford F-150 is now, it's huge. It is drastically different. There's so many different crazy options, and they're getting like insanely expensive. People are looking for cheaper options. And what can you get as a cheaper option for a pickup truck? Well, you go smaller instead of going bigger. So what they're doing is they're thinking about doing this and bringing it into the market. Um, the other side of that is with all of the market uncertainty and potential tariffs, there is a way to gain market share by almost working with those tariffs to be able to bring something to the U.S. market that they really want to even still be cheaper. Like smaller trucks, even plus tariff, will be cheaper than mid-sized truck or expensive large F-150 truck. So they're trying to play that game a little bit, and this is what they're kind of thinking about it. So just to quote the article a little bit, Ford Maverick and Hyundai Santa Cruz models, both of which debuted in 2021, have tapped into that demand. Now Toyota executives say the Japanese automaker is listening to U.S. dealer requests for a truck smaller than the brand's best-selling Tacoma midsize and Tundra full-size pickup. So this is not just something that is like out of the blue and they see the market and they're like, ooh, let's make this. Apparently dealers are sort of requesting this because people are coming in and be like, hey, when are you coming out with a small truck? Which to me isn't a bad idea, quite frankly. And I'm going to hand that part of the conversation over to Chad. Do you think it's a good idea for Toyota to bring out a small truck in the U.S., even with all the market uncertainty and all of the potential tariffs and blah, blah, blah right now, or even consider bringing it out in the next 4 years, given the current administration? And why is it that they should or should not do that?
I mean, I've always been a proponent of the market will dictate. Right? So, if there's a place in the market for these small trucks, which I think the Maverick has shown, if you do it right, people will buy it. And when it comes to small, reliable, rugged pickup trucks, everyone sort of thinks Toyota. So if played correctly, they could really play into, to like Sean's point, the OG Tacoma used to be a small truck. We've all seen the picture of the old school, like late 80s, early 90s Taco sitting next to a current day F-150. Like every other car or truck or vehicle or whatever you want to call it, they've gotten much, much bigger. Now, obviously back in there used to be like massive station wagons on the road and everything, but it's not really, don't need to get boiled down in the necessarily the minutia or the specifics of it all. The point is that if people want these vehicles, and right now your only choice is really, if you want something that's sort of conventional, is the Maverick. And the Maverick's doing pretty dang good. To Carson's point over on YouTube, consumers move to SUV commercial needs larger. What would you say the current market for a small truck would be? I think it's there. I think it's there if you do it correctly, because I do think that when you look at sales, when you look at what people are buying in this country specifically, it's people like trucks, but it's not necessarily coming from a place of need. In the respect that, we all know about, I guarantee you, we all know someone who has a full-size pickup truck, goes to Home Depot maybe once a month, maybe, for like 4 bags of mulch, some planters, etc. But the rest of the time, it's being treated like a normal vehicle. And if you could give that sort of command view of the road, that sort of utilitarianism, that ability to do sort of everything you quote unquote need, people are going to buy that stuff. And you see it with the success of the Maverick. And again, going back to the point, Toyota sort of is like the OGs of this. They sort of introduced the world to the small pickup truck in the sense that the original, I forget what it was called before the Tacoma, but like we'll use the Tacoma as the example. It literally revolutionized the space to where everyone had to make one. So you had, your Nissan Frontiers, you had your, um, Ford Rangers, you had your Chevy S10s, you had like all these things, to where people started buying them. And then as things sort of, I don't, I haven't, I don't looked into is not the right word, but like I haven't really dug too deeply into the fact that it's, so what was the shift? What killed the small pickup truck? Was it because big trucks were just as affordable and people decided to go that route? Or was it that the big trucks decided to get more and more quote unquote luxurious, offer more creature comforts, become more of that nice place to be, and small pickup trucks didn't really follow suit? Which, in my opinion, is what killed the small truck. If you can give someone all of their, all of the creature comforts they want, with a bed in the back that is more than, and you can showcase that it's more than capable of going to Home Depot or Lowe's or your local garden center, getting all the stuff you need for a weekend's worth or a weekend or two's worth of work, whether it be for your lawn, for your garden, for DIY projects around the house, like all of that sort of stuff, people will buy it. In my estimation, because you can sit here and say, oh, it will do everything you need. It will give you that view of the road that I think so many people like, which is effectively why crossovers are so popular. And it'll fill that niche of being different to a crossover, even if it's on a crossover platform. Right? It's not just another boring crossover, regardless of. So I honestly believe that if they do it correctly, there's 100% a market there. I think of anyone should do it. And I'm a little surprised that they were beaten to the market by Ford and Hyundai, because I figured this would be right up their alley. Makes perfect sense for a Toyota to do. They have it. It's literally baked into their DNA. Right. But I mean, it comes back to that definition of truck, right? If they're going to do something small, there's a what would be the, I don't want to say cost effective, but if you're looking at this from what the competition would be, Santa Cruz, Ford, they're using um they're using effectively a crossover mindset
Right.
to it.
Yeah.
So if Toyota were to go this route, my guess would be that they would effectively, and I don't know how you got me to talk about it, but you, damn it, you did. They'd probably look at the RAV4.
Yeah, I mean that's probably pretty accurate, and I will be honest that platform is not incapable, because I did that rally thing with Toyota, many years ago. And, even just a stock RAV4 with a lift and some knobby tires, which is basically what their, you know, off-road package was with what they were launching at the time, it was pretty capable, I'll be 100% honest. Like, we were on a rally course with just the stock RAV4, and it was pretty impressive what it could do. So it's not like it's incapable of doing cool truck stuff if it's put in a truck package. Would I like to see a small body on frame truck? Hell yeah. I think everyone would. But if they did go the crossover route, sort of the Expansive Cruise and Maverick, ways, I don't think that it would take away from the overall product of it.
Right, and the only reason I say that they're going like the crossover route is effectively if they were to develop a new chassis, they'd have to effectively take a taco and scale it down and then figure out all the stuff that goes kind of around it. With like using an existing platform like say a RAV4, well, it's already sort of there. Yeah, the chassis would need reinforcement because like that egg shape, as we all learned in high school physics, arch shapes or completed shapes are stronger, right? So they'd have to figure out how to reinforce the chassis a little bit. But it wouldn't be a complete rethink of an existing platform, right? Now, who knows? Maybe their body on frame stuff is scalable to where they could shorten it, narrow it slightly, but keep the rigidity and stuff like that. I also think that part of the appeal for the other manufacturers of going the crossover route is that body on frame is great. It's tough. It's rugged. It'll do what you want. It's also heavier, which means fuel economy. Now, I understand we're in a current state where that's not as important as it was, say, 2 years ago. But it is still something people look at. If they are cross-shopping a Maverick or Santa Cruz with the Toyota product, and it's like, hey, it can do all this stuff off-road. When off-roading is a nice to have, but it's like, wait, these things can do stuff off-road, and they're doing 5 miles to the gallon better. It all kind of goes into the market, right? Like, I think you have more potential buyers of something like that than you would say, let's just remake a 1993 Tacoma with modern tech. Which is what we all want. But as much as it pains me to say, we are the minority.
True.
We do not drive the market. As much as we think we do, it's your neighbor who looks at a turbo and wonders if it's an alternator.
Yep.
Those are the people driving the market, which sucks, but it's the reality we live in.
That's true.
So, look, I think more in this field is great because we're getting closer and closer to sort of a modern interpretation of an El Camino. When you think
agree with that.
And damn it, I still want to see someone do a Focus RS drivetrain in a Maverick. That I don't know why some idiot hasn't done it.
I think it would be. I think it would be very cool, and I would be very interested in that.
Or because I was thinking about these swaps earlier. So I was looking at it and Audi RS3s are plummeting in price. Like they're becoming very temptingly affordable to the point where I was like, I wonder, let's just say hypothetically Ford pays to fix the Mustang. I now have a car that's worth probably 36 to 40. Trade it in, get an RS3 for 36 to 40. Something completely different. And I was like,
the last 5-cylinder.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, that's to go from like my manual V8 sort of pony car / muscle car / like throwback car that'll also handle and has a really good, well, when sorted, a really good motor. You know, to go to like a small European sedan again with no manual. But like, so then I was thinking, all right, Chad wins the lottery. We're getting Greg another 245 wagon, and we're dropping that drivetrain in it.
Yeah, that'd be freaking insane.
Uh, you know, but could you imagine an Audi RS 3 pickup truck?
That would be so good.
It'd be so
So
hilarious.
good. It would be hilarious. It'd be so good. Like I would be down for that.
Sean, real quick,
But yeah, go ahead.
I just want to address chat real quick, and then we can move on to your next topic du jour. Sean, I don't. If the 5-cylinder Audi excites me because of what it is, what the power it can make, and the noises it makes. It's unlike anything else on the road. The A5s or the RS5s, I completely nothing those. I think they are just a German blob. There's nothing that really stands out of them design wise. Sure, the engines are pretty good, but like, and we're talking about a pretty sizable jump in price. The reason the RS3 is tempting is because it's this. I'm seeing a bunch with not a lot of miles on them. You know, in that 50,000 mile range, for the exact same price as what I paid for my Mustang. So it's like a direct comparison from a price point perspective. And then lastly, Andrew, I think I can speak for Greg on this one. You're awesome, dude, and we appreciate the kind words. Appreciate you, man. But now, Greg, what is the new news topic, or the next news topic?
So the next news topic is the Lotus Emira. I was talking about this while you were gone, and I was setting up the new stuff. The Lotus Emira is the car that took over for the Evora, and the Evora was the Evora was sort of the one that brought Lotus into the 21st century, if you will. Before then, Lotuses have largely just been go-karts for the road, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're awesome. The Elise, the Exige, going all the way back to, not the Elan, because that was terrible, but, the Europa, way back. Lotus has always had that ethos that we all know. Simplify, then add lightning, right? And the whole thing with Lotus now is they're trying to move into the modern sports car market where they can't just be a go-kart for the road. They have to compete with the 911. They have to compete with the Mustang. People are cross-shopping these things now, right? So like there are subsets of buyers that want sports cars, and they cross-shop a whole bunch of stuff now because there are not as many options out there as there used to be. So the Emira is the new one. It still has the Toyota Source V6 with I believe it's still an Edelbrock supercharger on it, making 400 horsepower. They also brought in the variant of the Mercedes-AMG Source 4-cylinder, which makes less power, obviously, because they want the V6 to be top of the range. So the whole idea
is very similar on horsepower, actually.
They're similar on horsepower, but the V6 is still considered like the top. Mm-hmm. But the whole idea and the reason why they're close in horsepower was that the V6 was eventually get phased out in favor of the 4-cylinder, just because it makes similar power and it's sourced from Mercedes-AMG and yada yada yada. So interestingly enough, as I'm reading this article, they're actually going the exact opposite direction, or they could potentially go the exact opposite direction for a very interesting reason. The V6 is insanely popular in the U.S., which is the largest sports car market on the planet. That is a fact. That's just how it is. The Emira V6 is so popular here, in fact, that they are considering putting a V8 into the Emira. And the reason why is actually not because of the US market, even though I just said that. The reason why is because the V6 won't actually clear Euro emission standards, which is hilarious. So the article states Lotus is poised to offer, this is from Autocar, very reputable source, by the way, poised to offer a V8 option for its Emira sports car as the company looks to expand the appeal of its sole combustion engine model. Currently, Lotus offers V6 and four-cylinder turbo options. Both offer 400 horsepower, but they ruled out boosting the power of the V6 because the Toyota sourced unit won't comply with your upcoming Euro 7 emissions regulations. So they're considering putting a V8 into it, which will comply with European emissions regulations, but this supercharged V6 won't. So now the whole quote is, the U.S. is an incredibly important market for us, for the car. It always has been. So we're looking at the market demand for the product going forward. They didn't confirm the V8, but did say the company is looking into other power options. It's a very, very competent product that we probably haven't exploited to its full already. So we are looking at all of the options. Considering that they have a supplier of engine with the AMG source four-cylinder, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to look into sourcing an AMG V8 for the Emira, which I don't know if that would fit, quite frankly. It's a pretty small car, and it's mid-engine, and that V6 takes up a lot as it is. So with all of that said, Chad, what are your thoughts on the Emira potentially getting a V8 wherever it may be from?
I mean, to your point, will it fit? Look, to me, it's kind of... To me, the way this thing is spec'd out is pretty... I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. Your options are the Emira First Edition, 182 mile an hour top speed, 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, horsepower 400, torque 354, or the V6, 180 top speed, 60 in 4.2 seconds. So you'd think like, okay, this still makes 400 horsepower and a little bit less torque. Like, I don't know why they put two engines that were so close to each other. Like, and as far as the engine and stuff is concerned, it all is probably going to boil down to just the overall dimensions of whatever V8, right? So if you think about it, like AMG makes a 4-liter V8. How long is it? How wide is it? If it's a couple inches wider and a couple inches longer, they're probably okay. If not, let me put it this way. They wouldn't be considering quote-unquote a V8 if they haven't already sort of done the research. Right? Like, why say you're going to do a V8 only to be like, well, it won't fit. Looks like we're going to have to use another V6 or... I really don't understand why boosting the V6 would hurt.
Well, it's already boosted. They would be boosting it more.
Well, what I mean by
this, like, I don't understand why it would fail regulations if it's just boosted more.
Well, that's exactly my point. I mean, I don't know the specs of the engine. I don't know what compression they're running. Usually, if you run a little bit higher compression, you burn a little bit cleaner. You run a little bit better emission-wise. Newsflash, that's why a lot of these cars are going to higher compression. Might also be that a supercharger isn't as efficient. Like, that was the thing I was thinking. It's like, well, why not figure out a way to, like, your Lotus, I don't know the Toyota engine, but if the heads are ambidextrous, you could theoretically make a hot V turbo that makes 500 horsepower pretty easily.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's requires a lot of effort and testing and stuff like that. But so does an engine swap. Just saying.
Well, right, exactly.
Let me put it to you this way. I think it would make the Emira one of the most appealing mid that sort of size sports car options.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you sit here and you're looking at it in a mirror, or you look at, say, a Porsche, you're like, well, that's a Porsche. This has a Camry V6 in it.
Yeah, and like to the to the casual sports car enthusiast, you're gonna want the Porsche. It's just the way it is.
Even if
To
you're
those that
getting
look a little
more.
deeper, you're like, the mirror is pretty cool. It's unique. It's a little quirky. It might be worth, it's far cheaper than its 911 competitor. So it's like, no, maybe I should try this out. So with the V8, you're talking, it's just a different territory you're going for there.
Oh, it's just a different audible experience, right?
Yeah.
3.5 liter Camry.
Yeah, I think it's a 3.5 or a 3.6.
All right, so just based on some quick Googleizing, the 2024 Camry XLE V6 has an overall. God damn it, that's just the fucking car. I want to know the engine. Has an overall length of 192 inches. That is one big ass V6.
It is.
V6 is probably 24.6 inches long. So depending on spec or configuration, the AMG 4-liter V8 can range from 26 to 30 inches long, which is bang on. I mean, if it's 26 and the Camry's 20, let's call it 5, we're only talking about an inch difference in length. The Camry engine's 23.9 inches wide. Especially, however, the engine's. I asked for width, and it's giving me bore spacing. But here's the bottom line. Again, they wouldn't be floating that idea out there, or that idea wouldn't be in some conversation if they hadn't looked like we all do, right? Like we look at Greg's engine bay. Well, it has a transverse straight 6. I bet you could fit a V8 in there. Right? Like,
Right.
without doing sort of some due diligence. And I'm guessing, given that they have. Now, I would guess it would be the Mercedes unit, because I'm just assuming the 4-liter is a smaller engine than, say, I mean, fuck. The Lotus is like, hey, Toyota, what about that 2UR? But the 2UR's got massive heads, and it's a 5-liter.
That ain't fitting.
I mean, I guess the thing is let me see. Lotus Lira. Oh, pfft. I googled the hold on.
What did you Google?
I googled the engine bay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, let me get an idea of what the engine bay looks like. And it's just plastic top of engine, some not so good to look at intake tube, and that's it.
Nice.
Solid. But look, I'm gonna put a pin on this one, because I think it's hilarious that Lotus is talking about putting a V8, and when you consider the next piece of news that we have, which we've all assumed is getting a V8, but no one's come out and said it. Mm-hmm. If they put a good V8 in there, I think they would see sales spike. I mean, yeah, I don't think.
I agree.
As long as it doesn't create like a torque to chassis issue, like just the car looks good. If it has a flat plane crank V8 that sounds good, nobody else is doing that apart from, like, say, did I say flat plane? I meant cross plane.
Yes.
Nobody else is doing that apart from like Corvette. So they have a way of sort of getting, like, I don't want to say an American sound, right? Because when everybody thinks Europe, they think of flat plane crank VA, even though like BMW, Mercedes, Aston Martin, well, Aston Martin is Mercedes.
Yeah.
That noise, I think it's a no-brainer. I cannot envision a world where that isn't a massive success.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it would attract a whole different slew of buyers and bring a lot more notoriety to Lotus, which
Yeah.
could say your Lotus could sound like a Corvette, but it will be less than a Porsche,
Well,
but more
to me, it's
beautiful
more
than a V8.
it's more of a, it's twofold. People are like, "Ooh, Lotus looks interesting." Eh, Toyota engine. What's over here,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah.
As
Well,
opposed to, wait, AMG V8 or just any V8, right? Like,
right.
imagine they're like, well, turns out an LS will fit in this bitch. Because LSs don't take up a lot of room, in case anyone was wondering.
Could you imagine the headline?
Hold
If
on.
an LS, if Lotus put an LS into the Emira, it would literally be like, it would literally just write itself. Lotus LS swaps the Emira. Period. All of them.
But I mean,
They literally.
I mean, it
would
wouldn't, it
swap
wouldn't,
the car.
it wouldn't be an LS. It would be some variation of the LT. But like, you get
No,
where
I
I'm at.
know. But still, I mean, the headlines would just write themselves on that one.
But I mean, just to give you an idea, where's my? Hold on. There we go. To give you an idea, I sent you a link, like, and I'll show it to the lovely viewership.
Oh yeah.
But like, that's an LS, and next to it is a Mazda Miata engine.
Yeah. It's bigger, but by way less than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, LSs are not. They're not big. They're not big engines.
That is true. But I think while we're on the topic of V8s,
Yeah.
and Gunner, great name, in the YouTube chat goes, man, Dodge bringing back the Hemi is neat and all, but making the last call edition with two different times and marking them up to high hell just for them to make it return again really spits in the face of anyone who got one and thought they had something special. I would agree with you on that.
That's an interesting topic.
That is a very, very interesting topic in the sense of I don't think they were shady or underhanded in any way. I think Stellantis said, get rid of the Hemi or make like some brand new dual overhead cam one that's like more efficient. And when I say efficient, I don't just mean MPG. I meant something that's a little bit better at making power per cubic inch, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. What I think that shows more of than anything else is just Stellantis and Dodge's mismanagement of the company over the last 5 years than anything. I don't think that they had any ill intentions. I completely agree with you. I think it's more along those lines of just like, you know, we know our audience, but we're going to go in the exact opposite direction of what they want.
Right. And I agree. Like if you bought a last call, assuming it was going to be the last, like, you know,
It's like a collector's item.
It was marketed that way, so I wouldn't blame anyone who did that. Nice, Andrew. But on the flip side, it's like that sucks for those people.
Yeah.
But does it suck more to live in a world where there is no V8 Mopar?
Yes.
Because guess what? The next news topic is one, and it's the headline, it's the cover art, it's the title of today's show, and that is the new Dodge Charger, the four-door sedan, will make 670 horsepower. Yay! Electrically. Boo.
Yes.
Like,
And
why? I get that they have to be like, this was our plan all along. You hated the idea of no V8, but look, 670 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares. Nobody, not one person gives a shit. When this new CEO came out and said, "Hey, we've listened to everyone. We're in no uncertain terms." Nor he didn't come out and blatantly say we're bringing the V8 back, but he hinted that there's a very strong possibility, and it's probably going to happen because not only is not having a V8 killing them with the Charger and Challenger, it is also arguably more importantly killing them in pickup truck sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which they sell
the
more
Ram
of.
is getting destroyed this year. Usually it's like third in sales in the U.S. It's fifth. The 1500 is fifth behind two crossovers. Like, let that sink in. And it's usually not even close. It's hundreds of thousands of sales over the next crossovers or whatever the third and fourth or fourth and fifth that year. They're getting like decimated, and it's by a considerable margin.
Sean goes, they can also fix the Hurricane, but let's just say hypothetically the Hurricane works perfectly. It's a great engine. It makes the power. Ford already tried this with the EcoBoost F-150s, and nobody wanted them.
Correct. And the ones that they did sell are not reliable.
But the point is that nobody wants a V6 in their truck when for literally half a century, if not more, probably 3/4 of a century, you could get a V8. People know V8. There's the pickup truck ethos is that it's simple, reliable. It doesn't have a ton of mechanical bells and whistles. It's comfortable. The interiors where you can get some pretty nice accoutrements, all that other sort of stuff. But as far as a vehicle mechanically, it's dead nut simple, and any mechanic on any street corner can work on them pretty easily.
Yeah. So really quick from this article, let me read this for the Charger sedan. So just like the Coupe, the new Charger sedan has a powerful 100.5 kilowatt hour battery and 2 electric motors, giving it 670 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque in the Daytona Scat Pack trim. Dodge doesn't say if the RT will be available in this model, but that's enough to send the sedan to 60 miles per hour in just 3.3 seconds, as quick as the outgoing Hellcat Red-Eye. And again, who cares? It doesn't sound like anything.
I would say it's more reliably. It would be more reliable to get that 3.3 seconds 0 to 60 than the Red-Eye, because the one thing we know about Hellcats, apart from like a Trackhawk or anything, they struggle to put their power to the ground unless they're on a prepped surface.
Correct. And this is an all-wheel drive car.
This is an all-wheel drive EV, which we know just fucks right off.
Made everything. Yeah, exactly. So
and that was never the point. Not one person sat here and said, like, that. No. It'll be faster. Nobody cares. It shows, again, to go back to your point, it shows a gross misunderstanding of the buyer, of the market, because guess what? Auto enthusiasts, we're not necessarily all that concerned with what is the ultimately fastest way of going through a quarter mile, or what is the ultimate fastest car. Yeah, it's cool to talk about. Yeah, it's this, that, but like Ford just showed you, to get a Mustang that's under 7 minutes at the Nürburgring is a $300,000 vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
That's not for everyone. Duh.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
But the regular Mustangs, even the fastest version of the Dark Horse, which I hate to break it to everyone, is the automatic, don't care. There's enough people to, basically make it something that is required as an available offering. But there's a ton of people buying the manual. The manual is slower. People don't care. It's about the overall experience. And yes, you could throw an electric drivetrain into a crossover. Not one person's going to care. Or a regular sedan. Not one person could be there. Shit, you could have done an electric Charger alongside the base Charger and a V8 Charger, and I don't think people would have been too upset. And you would have had people going for the EV route, right? Just like you have morons buying the Mach-E. They're not Mars. It's a decent enough vehicle. It just the name pisses me off. But to have that as you're like, look at what we did, and everyone's like, so what? The noise, the smells, the interaction with the manual box, even though the high end Hellcats haven't had a manual in forever, which I think is a good thing given the chassis tuning and the power levels.
Yeah.
It's just like, look, they had to do this because basically it was in their plans, and then they can't pivot now. They have to. It's like, we've built it, it's coming. We have to sit here and tell you about it. But
yeah, and I'll be honest. The article that this is all from, it reads like a PR piece.
oh, I'm guaranteeing
Like
it was pulled up
bought and sold.
right straight off of their press release.
Yeah. But I mean, even like the opening, even like the opening two paragraphs is like, don't worry though, even though the Charger's initial rollout has been somewhat rocky, Dodge has even more versions planned of its muscle car, of its exciting new muscle car. And it's like, you don't believe any of this that you're writing, do you? Because it's not. It's not exciting. None of
Right.
this is exciting.
What this is basically Mr. Jeff Perez. He works for Motor One. He likes getting press vehicles, and if he just came out and said what we're saying, they'd Dodge would be like, or Stellantis really would be like, Zia not getting any more of our cars. Fuck you, Motor One.
Yeah, right. Right.
And look, if they came out with this as an offering to sit here and say, like, we have the muscle car side, that tells because here's the bottom line with that. Thankfully, that management is gone. But hypothetically speaking, let's just say they were still in place. From a consumer perspective, if they saw this and were like, oh crap, the people who saved us from speaking German all those years ago really do like their V8s. We grossly miscalculated this. Let's give them their V8 back. I would venture to say that the damage had already been done.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, that the
It was
trust...
sort of a rug pull scenario.
Not even a rug pull, but more of the trust had been broken. Of like, you don't want to make this, so what are the odds that the V8's going to be cool? Or nothing other than like the base RT V8, like a 5.7 or even a base 6.4, which is still a good engine, but it's like, here's your V8, go away, stop complaining.
Right.
Thankfully, we have new leadership, and thankfully he seems to get it. And thankfully, I think inevitably what will happen is that this chassis will get sort of a revamp with the V8, assuming it will fit between the wheel wells in the front. Obviously, could you imagine? We brought the V8 back. It's a mid-engine Charger.
Oh man, yeah, that's almost an even bigger man.
You know, Vic, welcome, my dude. Yeah, a Thursday show. We couldn't go last night for various reasons, so we're coming to you live on a Thursday.
Yeah.
From northern New Jersey, it's Thursday night.
Thursday.
You know, and I mean, like, I just think everything about the Challenger Charger, and you said in our private chat when I was proposing title and thumbnail ideas, you're like, exactly, it's ugly. I go, well, yeah, it's ugly, but like, styling alone, people could have forgiven it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, because I would sit here and tell you, go and look at a base Charger, like the previous generation. Go look at the original base Charger. It was not a looker. It wasn't ugly, but it did nothing. But when you put, say, a wide body and some more aggressive styling cues on it, suddenly it comes into a... I saw a wide body Scat Pack in a parking lot the other day. I was like, man, those are actually a lot better than the internet pictures and stuff do not do those justice. And every time I see one, I'm like, those are pretty dang good looking.
Yeah. I see them all the time, and I'm just like, I want that.
You know, um, so time will tell. Like I said, they kind of had to do this. They kind of had to sit here and like sing its praises. It's like maybe one of those journalists yelling at us about no V8 will understand or at least get what we're trying to do with this. And like, they know they effed up. I mean, the CEO's gone. He's gone.
Yeah. Which
So
good.
They're recognizing it. It's just like I said, I don't think we're getting. I honestly think we'll have a V8 Lotus long before we'll have a V8 Charger again. I think you're going to start to see the 6.4 make a comeback in the Rams. Whatever BS they spewed about. The new Ram was built around the straight six engine. Bullshit. No,
it wasn't.
Unless they legitimately narrowed the frame rails.
Yeah.
Like, which would have no, but
no.
Oh shit! We're starting tonight. We're doing well. Vic goes. It was funny at Electrify Expo, the Dodge booth. They really embraced people who's checking out the Charger EVs to rev too. I'm all for EVs having a sound. They should have their own sound. And I'll just we've talked about it. Yeah. Like this whole what was it, the Blablatronic, Plasmatronic, or whatever the crap they were trying to say.
Fratsonic.
Fratsonic. Is dumb. I hate the fucking idea of a speaker giving you audio noise. I hate the cars that are pumping in fake audio through the speakers. If you want more noise, you should have gotten a more exciting engine or put an exhaust on your car. Be a man. Do it as God intended. No more of this fakery. So great.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. Just let it be organic. Let it be natural. If it, some EVs sound like epic. Like the freaking the McMurdy Spearling. I understand it's also a fan car, but the whine you get from the electric motors on that thing make it sound like a freaking spaceship. It's awesome. There's other EV noises that are they're cool because they're different and they're unique to the EV.
Embrace that difference.
They're high strung electric motors that make this whining noise. That's really interesting and cool, and I like that. I mean, I obviously like something that's an internal combustion better, but it's a unique noise to that particular thing, which is awesome. And that, again, they should have embraced that, as opposed to just being here's this electric vehicle that wants to sound like an internal combustion.
No, you're different. Embrace the difference. That's also part of the reason why I'm not entirely a huge fan of the Voodoo and the way it sounds. Because they went out of their way to try to make it sound crossplane. They legitimately changed the firing order so it had that more American, deep-rooted tone. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it was successful, so they pretty much did the right thing. But if you're going to go flat plane, I think Corvette did it better when they just embraced it. I mean, granted, they went and found Ferrari's homework and hid enhance, but that's neither here nor there. And to Vic's question, I honestly haven't heard. I've seen them. I haven't heard them, so I can't really comment on what they sound like. I will say this when it comes to sound and what my preference is. Natural sound. I understand in a lot of cases, sound is a sign of inefficiency, i.e. that electric motor making a shit ton of sound. The energy it's producing, some of it's going into sound waves versus into the pavement via the wheels and tires.
Exactly.
It's also why modern F1 engines sound so ass. They're an incredibly efficient engine at converting gasoline, or I guess in that, not even gasoline, basically rocket fuel, into horsepower. But even then, their thermal efficiency is just over 50%. So that means the kinetic energy in the fuel versus the actual energy output of the engine, it loses 50%. So, yeah, when it comes, like, I have nothing. I was talking to someone else about this. I have no issues with EVs. If you want to go out and buy an EV, I'm going to support that decision as if it is something you want, not something being forced upon you. You know, but EVs need to, and that's part of what made Tesla so successful. We've had a lot to say about Tesla in the past, and no, Brett, I'm not buying one. If I can't afford to replace at this moment in time, the $14,000 engine, what makes you think I'm going to go out there and get like a $60,000 Tesla? Lay off the absinthe. To those of you who don't know, Brett's my friend, so I'm just talking ish. That's what made Tesla so. Tesla was the anti-EV electric car, in the sense that all electric cars prior to Tesla were basically these small little Econo shit boxes that nobody really wanted. Tesla showed that it could be a regular sedan, and it didn't need to follow convention. Now, some say that's Tesla's downfall, but guess what? By not following convention, by being different, by being their own thing, Tesla became incredibly successful. Despite all the other stuff with Tesla. They became the best-selling electric car manufacturer, full stop. So right. They did a lot of stuff right. Tuck goes, artificial insemination is more efficient, but no guy would opt for that. Counterpoint to that, guy who wants kid. Well, I guess that doesn't. Never mind. Moving on. But no, like, look, brace yourselves, because I think we're going to see a lot more of this stuff from Chrysler before they actually figure out what the hell they're going to do with the V8 return. Yeah. So, but on that note, Greg, what else did you want to talk about tonight, if anything at all? Or what's your dad advice for the week?
I don't know. I don't really give good advice, to be honest. I'd say the
best dad advice: don't be one.
Yeah,
no.
That's dad advice. Avoid being dad. No. I'd say
deadbeat Gregson.
I'd say patience. Patience goes a long way. So take a step back, take a couple of deep breaths. Everything's gonna be fine.
Punch a wall.
Find another way around it. You'll be good.
And with that,
wait, what did you say?
I said punch a wall.
Punch a wall. No, that's the dad advice when I have teenagers. It'll change later.
But so, Greg, just so you know, this will be a weekly reoccurring thing. So you should probably stock up on some good dad advice.
I'm gonna start.
You are the shifting lanes dad. You are literally the only one of us to procreate, probably for the better.
That's true. I will start writing down the good dad advice on notes and bestow it at the end of each stream.
But on that note, guys, we're gonna wrap. We may or may not be getting Greg some physical headphones between now and the next show. Next week we are on our regular time, assuming life allows it. The week after that, so the next 2 weeks should be normal service for us, guys. The 9th of June, we will be on, that's a Monday. We will be with Mr. Elliot Alvis. Shortly after that, we will have Keith from Wheels and Whiskeys on. And we have a car guy guest coming on. I'm still working on the scheduling. But we have a car guy guest coming on who's, you wouldn't know he's into cars based on any of the content he's ever produced. So that should be pretty interesting. Guy has a pretty big social following, so I'm pretty excited for that. He's also just a genuinely cool dude. But for this show, that's going to be a wrap.